Welcome to Adeptus On-Air, the show where we examine how individuals and companies make decisions that drive their business and personal success. Each week, we connect with notable professionals who pull back the curtain on the industries that Adeptus has been on the cutting edge of for the last 30 years, including music, sports, and entertainment, as well as new emerging markets.
Welcome to Adeptus On-Air. This is Ashley Greene, your host, and I have a very special guest today. Her name is Erin Parsley. I'm very excited to have her. This is my first time hosting by myself, and I love the guests that we have, and everything that she's talking about is very dear to my heart, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I know I will. A little bit about Erin. She is an award-winning professional dancer and coach. She helps people awaken to the joy and pleasure of being in a body and discover radical inner freedom. She's helped thousands of people find what their purpose is. And she does so many things that are so powerful and wonderful. You know, I've read just a little bit about her, and I'm in awe of all of the things that she does to inspire people. And I've been wondering, what is the common thread that weaves all of those things together and helps you, reach your purpose and help other people find theirs?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I feel honored to be here and have this conversation with you. And thank you for that introduction. So I am definitely multifaceted, which is very correct for me in my human design, which we might talk about a bit later. It sounds like that's something you're interested in. I'm a manifesting generator, and our type is very creative and very, multifaceted. So I am a lifelong professional dancer, have been choreographing and teaching dance now for a few decades. And I'm also, as you mentioned, a certified coach, and I use human design as well as somatic coaching. I went through the Somatic Institute for sex and relationship coaching, actually. So many things, so many facets of how I help people. And really, the thread that binds them all together, the common thread throughout all of it, is about connection and about love. So, are we connected to ourselves first and foremost? And are we loving ourselves? And then, therefore, are we loving and connecting to others, right? Because it really starts with us. And if we don't know how to connect to ourselves with kindness, with beautiful, deep acceptance, and with celebration for the unique divine beings that we are, because we all have that inner spark within us, connected to source, connected to the universe, to God, to however you see that infinite intelligence that sustains us here on this earth. We're all connected. And when we find that within ourselves, then we can be more peaceful, more loving, and create a more peaceful and loving world, both with those that we're in relationship to and the wider planet in general. It starts with us, and then it starts with those that we're in relationships to. So really, the thread for me is connection. It's love, and it's joy. It really comes down to those three things, I guess. And that's also hard to it's
Yeah.
hard to dial it down a little bit because there's so many things I'm passionate about, but I'd say those are kind of the core.
Erin, I guess I want to ask, how do you feel people get disconnected? And how do you, especially when somebody feels so disconnected from themselves as a spiritual being, what is the thing that you do to help bring them? Because I know all of these things that you do build on each other, but is there one thing that you find, and it's probably not one thing, it's probably different with other people, but what have you noticed between the correlation of what disconnects people from their spiritual self versus what you do to bring them back into that level of consciousness?
So I would say a big part of it is actually a disconnectedness from their body, which is where the somatic experience comes in. And somatic, for those of you that don't know, it simply means of the body. And so we are spiritual beings down here in this planet, in bodies having a human experience. And we're here to learn from being in these bodies, right? But so many people are so disconnected from their actual sensations, their feelings, and their actual sensations of their bodies that that's where I find the disconnect. And so that's really all of the ways that I help people and all the modalities I use and all the methods that I would use to help people connect to their inner being, their core, their spiritual divine self is through an experience of connecting with their body first and foremost, because we cannot bypass that. Right. So we want to really be here, present in the moment, at peace in our physical bodies in order to find that safety, that groundedness, and that, yeah, quality of presence that really then allows us to feel safe to open up to a bigger perspective of our spiritual selves. So we cannot connect to our spirits without being connected in a kind and loving way to our bodies first. So all the work that I do incorporates connection to the body, whether that is dance, whether that is, simple practices of breath work, whether that is actually just tuning in through human design is really cool because it is like a map of our energetic body and how we're designed, and we're all designed differently. So I really help through my work with human design to help clients to tune into the different parts of themselves that in their bodies that are really powerful. And then some places where they're going to be more, let's just say, open to outside influences as well, because some of us, all of us are being affected all the time by conditioning. And so we have this conditioning field as humans. Culture conditions us, family conditions us, our teachers, the school system conditions us. We're being conditioned to think certain ways and to go for certain things in life that aren't really the truth for everyone, right? It's kind of like, this is the way to think, this is what your goal should be, this is the way to find, quote, air quote, success in life. And that's just not the case. Each of us are here to find our own unique purpose and pathway to what deeply fulfills us. And if we are using our mind and letting our head only tell us what is right for us based on the conditioning we've received from our culture, then we will never find that deep fulfillment we're each seeking. And so we really need to go in and start to learn what's correct for us and how we actually feel. And we can't know how we feel if we're not connected to the somatic experience of our bodies, because our bodies hold emotions, our bodies hold feelings. And if we don't know how we feel and we don't know what's going on with us as a physical being, we're not going to be able to find that clarity of our purpose.
I love that. So would you say that really everything that you do, especially with connecting with the body, keeping people in the present, sort of teaching them how to separate, what they're feeling, what they should do versus what feels right. Do you think that that's sort of, well, you're shedding the layers of conditioning, right? And they're really starting to understand who they truly are versus, what they've been defined as.
Correct.
And that's really what the purpose is, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And what they're doing. And that starts with really living in the present, right? And understanding the separation
Hmm.
between what you're feeling and where you're rooted. You mentioned human design, which I know is a very powerful tool. And it's once I learned about human design and my human design, it really opened my eyes to a lot of things. And helped me understand my life. And, if you could explain what human design is to people, I'm sure, that would be super helpful.
Sure. So I love that you found it and you already have experienced the power of it. It's completely changed my life when I really encountered it. Well, I first encountered it about 6 years ago, and then I started like diving in and deeply studying it within a program where I was trained in it over 4 years ago, and it's completely changed my life. Human design is an amalgamation. It's a system that combines Vedic astrology, or the Vedic chakra system, with astrology and the I Ching and the Kabbalah and quantum physics. It sounds very metaphysical, and it is, and yet it is so incredibly practical. I've worked with dozens of clients, showing them based on their human design chart, their body graph, which is their own unique chart that no one else will have because it's so specifically based on the exact time and location and date of your birth. So I've helped so many clients understand the way that their energy works, because we all work differently. We are all meant to operate in slightly different ways from each other, you know? What works for one person is not the correct way for another person to be operating to find the most ease and joy and success, right? We all have different ways of operating. And so the reason I love human design is because it is so specific based on you in particular. And so if we were working together, I would be looking at your human design chart and I would be helping you understand your unique energetic patterning. And some people, for instance, based on what you shared with me, that's okay to share that you're a projector. You are not designed to work in the same way that I am as a manifesting generator. I have a defined sacral center, which is where the gut is. Okay. So I have a lot of energy to work. And 70% of the population, we are all generators, 70% of us. And we're like the workhorses of the world. We are here to create things and like really just work, work, work. And we're like the worker bees. Okay. So as a projector, you should not be trying to keep up with me in terms of just like even physical activity. You know, you absolutely can create in this world, but in a different way than me as a manifesting generator would. And so if you try to keep up with the 70% of us that are generators, and by like we're talking amount of work, amount of hours you may work in a day, or how much physical activity you're actually trying to keep up with, you're going to burn out because we're made differently. And so when you really learn through human design to work with your own unique energy patterns and learn what your gifts are, your unique gifts, and then learn the places where you're just really open to being conditioned and you're trying to be something that you're not, it is so powerful.
So, right. And this is a very good example for our audience that's listening, is because I'm not somebody that can keep up energetically. I will try, I will burn out, I will become bitter. And that's been a
Exactly.
theme in my life. And it's made me feel like, gosh, I can't keep up because you're very conditioned, especially in the US capitalistic society. And I'm an accountant, right? So there were periods of my life I was working 60 hours a week,
Oh
and
my
it's very
goodness.
challenging.
Yeah.
And you're wondering, why am I not able to do the things that other people are? And you feel poorly about yourself. And
Right.
then you start getting into human design and realizing what your purpose is. And you're like, goodness, I'm not deficient. I wasn't designed this way. I have other things or purposes that
Yeah.
I'm supposed to embody. And once I align with those,
Hmm.
then I will be serving, my purpose, my mission, what I was designed for.
Right.
Um, and
And
imagine that's been just as eye-opening, for your clients, as much as
absolutely.
it has been for me. And maybe you can explain how, people, once they know these things, how it changes their life and puts them in an element of alignment where they find peace, happiness, and the things that they've been looking for.
Right. Well, it's so powerful, just what you said, because it's very, very true, that you will be, I would say, judging yourself before, because society has conditioned you to be like others who can work 60 hours a week. Although, personally, I don't think anyone's meant to work 60 hours a week, but the generators have a better shot at it than like the projectors or manifestors who also do not have that defined sacral center. So, or the reflectors. So those types are not going to be able to keep up with that incredibly overwhelming, I would say, insane work culture that we have all been conditioned into, especially in this country, like you mentioned, in the United States. So by letting go of the judgment that you may receive from others or that you were certainly pouring on yourself, what a relief, right?
Oh,
So
it goes back to finding self-love again, which is the whole purpose, right?
yes,
So
yes.
you let go of that judgment and you learn to love yourself for what your specific qualities are.
Exactly. And that is why it's such a powerful tool because, like I mentioned, my work is all about love. And first and foremost, self love, because we do not truly love ourselves. We cannot truly love others in a way that is going to make a beautiful impact that I know we desire to make, right? People want to make a good impact on this world. But when we're so much in so much pain on our own because of our own self judgment, that gets in the way of the quality of our connection with other people.
You have to love yourself before you can love others. And
Right.
that's what all of these tools that you teach help
Right.
people to get to, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And it just makes me very, very grateful that I can help other people find a deeper acceptance of themselves and then actually learn to love themselves. Like my dear client, Ruby, she had told me that for the first time in 52 years of her life, she not only learned to like herself, she learned to love herself from starting to do this work together with me and finding out the beautiful qualities of who she actually was, right? So it was just like a revelation. And I just love hearing that because that is what I'm here is to help you love yourself. Because I'll tell you what, it took me a long time to learn to love myself. It didn't come naturally. I grew up in a very toxic ballet world where I was constantly told all the things that were wrong with me, not the things that were right. And so I took all that on as an impressionable young girl who gave up my whole life because I wanted to. No one told me to, because I gave up my whole life to be a professional ballerina. And so, of course, I was going to believe all the people, my teachers and the people in that world telling me these things. It's taken me decades to unwind that toxic judgment I had about myself. So this has not been an easy journey for me, but I have found that deep self-love and acceptance for myself. And that is where the freedom lies. When we love ourselves and accept ourselves for exactly who we are, then we're able to really step into our purpose and step into our correct direction in life because we have that beautiful connection to ourselves and we're not beating ourselves up constantly, right? We're not getting in our own way of sharing our gifts with the world. We've lost self-consciousness. Doesn't mean we'll never feel self-conscious. Sometimes I still feel self-conscious, absolutely. But because I have that deep foundation of self-love, I'm able to notice that and come back to myself and be like, okay, but you know who you are, Erin. So just keep moving forward and you'll be able to bless other people and serve them in their life as you keep connecting to the love that you are. And if all I was doing was judging myself all the time, I would keep myself held back from being able to be a fountain and vessel of love for others. So self-love is vitally important. And a lot of people are confused and don't know how the heck to get there. It's a process. It is definitely a process, but these tools and the tools I work with in my practices and my businesses definitely are impactful and definitely help. And I know because I've done them all myself. So I really, really, really live my own work. And that's why I'm able to really help people. And I'm so passionate about it.
I love that. And you touch on a few things that mean a lot to me, and I want to talk about them for our audience too. So you had mentioned that you had a difficult time and that you've healed yourself. And, a lot of what I've been through and understand is that healers or people that go on this journey on their own and then are ready to teach other people, you have to heal yourself before you can heal other people.
Mhm.
You really have to become that phoenix rising from the ashes before you can share that experience.
I love that you mentioned, I just have to pop in and say,
Yeah,
so
go ahead.
cool you mentioned the Phoenix Rising, because my incarnation cross, which is like the life theme, my life story in my human design, my incarnation cross is the Phoenix. I have the incarnation cross of the sleeping Phoenix. So I very much resonate with the myth of the Phoenix. And so it's just beautiful you mentioned that. So thank
I love that. I think
you.
mine's the right hand of the Maya or something like that.
Of the
Uh,
what? The
Maya, if that's,
Maya. Oh, okay.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So you are really here to see through the veil, and to see what's behind this 3D world that we're living in and pierce through the illusion into the truth, the exist, the essential truth behind this world
Yeah.
that we're living in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My human design, I think, says I'm supposed to, bring uh, I guess the way to put it is to bring the spiritual into the practical world or teach people to
Right.
connect the two.
Right. Well, and as a 3/5, you're going to be doing that too, because for all those listening out there, I know we
Yeah,
probably
this is
know
we're
what we're
touching on.
talking about,
Yeah.
so we won't go too far into it, but I will just say that you are just a little bit I know about you, what you shared with me, that you are here to learn through life and through trial and error and experimentation, and that is the 3 side of your profile, and then bring that knowing into practical solutions for people to help them, right? And that's the 5 side of your profile. And so you, with that incarnation cross, being so connected to the essential truth behind the practical, 3D reality, you get to marry the practical with the metaphysical and the spiritual and bring, this knowledge out into practical ways for people to be able to accessibly recognize and touch into, right? So it's really cool. That's really, really cool.
It's really cool. And, learning this, like we talked about finding freedom, and freedom is loving yourself, right? And I think people often mistake freedom from other things. They'll define freedom from external factors like, I have wealth, I have, things that allow me to do whatever I want, which doesn't always bring you interpersonal freedom, right? It gives you freedom in some respects, but not in a freedom in the unconditional love of ourselves that we're talking about. But what you said, and through human design, and understanding my purpose and being like, oh goodness, yeah, I do bump up against about everything I try.
Yes.
I goof up a lot.
Yeah.
But I try, and I've always wondered, why am I always goofing up, or why does everything seem so bumpy? I mean, I always get to the other end,
But
but
it's
like
literally your process. You're meant to
that's
learn
my
that
process.
way,
Yes,
right?
and I thought that I was a goof up, right?
Mhm.
But once I learned human design, it gave me freedom to understand, oh, this is my purpose.
Right.
I am supposed to have this trial and error in everything that I do, and then I'm supposed to pass that wisdom on to other people so they don't have to bump their heads every time they try something. And it's like,
Right.
oh, well, great for me. But
Right.
but it
Absolutely.
right, but
Yeah, and one thing I wanted to add about what you were saying earlier, it's so true that people will look for freedom outside of themselves, and they think that if they have a certain number in their bank account or a certain amount of, I don't know, houses to live in the world, or they can travel whenever they want. I mean, I love to travel, believe me, like, and I do as much as I can, but or the right, a certain relationship with someone, these things, they are all external to the essence of your human experience. Like, the only thing that we can actually count on is how we feel within ourselves and our awareness and our perception, because any of those other things can be taken away. They can change. We have no control over anything outside of us. We really, really, really don't.
make a very good point. True freedom
Yeah. Is
is have
within.
control of
It's
what's within. And that is true freedom, is to know that you have the control. And you
Mhm.
made such a good point by saying everything can be taken away from you, because that's how my spiritual awakening started, is that
Okay.
I lost everything
Mhm.
that I ever defined myself as. I lost my marriage, I lost my job, I lost my health all at the same time. And
Mhm.
I could no longer look in a mirror and say, I am, Ashley Greene, wife of so and so with this job, all of the things I thought were me. And then
Right.
I really had to say, who am I?
Right.
Right. And I think that's a very good point. It's like when you start defining yourself as, or, thinking that freedom exists outside of you, it really doesn't, because
Right.
all of those things are subject to, again, like you said, being taken away. Freedom is really knowing that you are in control, right? Of, yourself, or you love yourself, enough to know that you don't need all of those things.
Well,
Right?
freedom is like, yes, it's about having a responsibility to what's going on externally. And so I say that on purpose because we have the ability to respond in different ways to all the happenings of our life. And two people could be experiencing the exact same circumstances that could be quite traumatic, but based on one person's perspective of that event, then they could be having a very different experience of than the other person who really feels like a victim to it. And if
Right.
that's the thing, the victim consciousness, like we really need to take responsibility for how we respond to other people and to the events of our life, because that is where the true freedom lies.
It's
Okay.
like a why, when people have the mindset, why is this happening to me versus why is this happening for me?
Hmm.
Right. Which I think is definitely a perception shift that I've had since starting to study these things. It's like, if people start leaving my life or things go away, I say, oh gosh, well, this is starting a new chapter.
Hmm.
Or this wasn't in alignment with me. Why do I think that this is happening for me
Hmm.
rather than, the victim mentality? Uh,
Right. So looking for the good, the potential, the
okay.
seed of potential that is in that life shaking experience. What is the potential that's waiting to grow into your life, to blossom and bloom into something that could be really amazing that you may not have experienced it if you hadn't gone through this death process, right? So,
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And once you go through that sort of death rebirth thing,
mhm.
and you're very sort of confused, or you know that you need to shift your perspective, that's really what all of the tools that you teach people, that's where it gets them to the other side to really understand the purpose of all of these things, and then to help them change their lives, really, to have a new perspective. And it teaches them really to be in alignment, and then also the tools that they need to live the life they always wanted but never knew how to get there.
Right, exactly. And some people say, like, I have no idea where to start. I don't know. I'm just not happy.
Mhm.
Well, we have some digging to do then, right? We want to look into how that person is perceiving their life, because first and foremost, it comes from our perception.
Right.
Okay. And so our vision of our life, our perception, our perspective influences our possibilities. And if we don't see things as a possibility, then it won't be, right? We're just shutting the door for our own growth. So that's where I say responsibility is very important. So the people that work with me in my coaching practice are definitely people that are willing to look at themselves and see that as an opportunity rather than judging themselves, and we got to shed all that old judgment. We all are trained to judge ourselves. Okay. So that's a part of it. And we do that deep work to be letting go of that judgment. That is a part of the process, the way I work with people. And the ultimate goal is to find the freedom to choose, to know that you are the creator of your experience because you're the one responding to these events of life. We do not have responsibility of what's going on outside of you. You're not, you can't change it, but you certainly can change the way that you respond. And then that gives you all the new options that you couldn't see before when you felt like a victim.
Right. Do you recall, or is there a time in your life when you felt like you had your most profound breakthrough?
Oh gosh. There's been so many. How much time do we have? Let's see.
No, I'm glad that you said that, because that's I think some people think that you just have this aha moment, and everything builds. right?
Continual. It is a journey. And what I want to mention as well is that yes, I say like I've healed myself, but I'm not 100% healed. Like I have stuff come up. I get my heart, hurt. Like I get my heart broken. I go through, I'm continually going through my own period of death and rebirth and my own inner like shadow work, right? Like I am still healing. I don't think we're ever going to get to this perfect place where we're totally healed. That's not even the goal. Okay. But I know one thing about myself. I have such bravery and courage to keep doing this inner work because I know the freedom it affords. So I keep expanding in greater levels of freedom within my own spirit. And that is a beautiful thing. So I just wanted to mention that, like, that's a caveat. Like, I am not 100% healed. Like, I am so healed from the traumas of my childhood because I went through a lot. I'll just share briefly so people can understand my trajectory. So, not only with the body shaming I experienced in the ballet world, but also as a teenager, I experienced years of emotional and sexual abuse by one of my dance mentors. And I can talk about this now because I have done so much work with this very traumatic event that I experienced. In my 20s, my poor sweet Erin in my 20s, she was heartbroken. She didn't know what to do with herself, right? Because she had gone through this thing that no one should have to experience. But now, like 20 years later, I've found this freedom and I've done some pretty courageous things. I mean, I brought him, I actually went through a 2-year legal process to file charges against him, and he ended up being convicted as a sex offender and unable to work with other children ever again, which was my intention in doing that because I didn't want other girls to suffer in the way that I had suffered. So that was a huge turning point in my life that was really important. But even that didn't heal me from it. I still have been doing deep work, working with my inner child, doing the somatic work that I do, prayer, meditation, learning my human design, like going into deep shadow work. Like I have done so much spiritual and emotional work to heal from the things I've experienced. It's a continual process, right? So I couldn't possibly say that it was just one thing. It's been a continual process throughout my life. And I truly believe it will continue to be that process, right? And sometimes I feel a little like, oh God, really? Like it's going to be indefinite, And then I'm like, yeah. And like, if it wasn't, that'd be kind of boring, Like if I just got to this like enlightened place where I'm like, everything is wonderful and perfect. And then I'm like, and then what?
No, I mean, you're not wrong. And I'm glad that we're having this conversation too, because I think a lot of people feel like they should have this aha moment and then everything falls into place afterwards. And I think that, especially I'll speak about my journey a little bit. It's been about remembering and forgetting almost.
Mm,
It's like, I remember, and I have these beautiful spiritual experiences and, breakthroughs and aha moments. And, I'm remembering to love myself and I'm feeling wonderful, and then, like you said, there will be times when you go back to, sort of your ego self. And you fall back and then you have to say, okay, well, let me get back on track. And then that may teach you another thing about your shadow self. And it really
absolutely.
it is a journey.
Yeah.
It is an absolute journey.
Yeah. And I would say that our ego shows us it's actually a gift, right? Like the ego, some people might perceive the ego as like, this terrible thing and they're so demonized. But actually our ego is really just the aspect of ourselves that's really, I'd say, very wounded and showing us what we still do need to work on actually and what we get to heal, right? So the ego is an opportunity to dive into that shadow work, which is vitally important that we do that. And I think people are afraid maybe to go into the shadow work because they feel like they'll never come out, right? But that's where actually having, getting support will be very helpful. Having someone by your side that can help guide you there and help you see the light and guide you out again is very helpful, because otherwise it can feel a bit overwhelming. But if we don't do that work, we will never truly be free because there will be so many parts of ourselves that are unloved and rejected and living in the shadow. And the shadow isn't wrong. This is a planet of duality. It is about the light and the darkness here. That's what we came here to experience. And so we are meant to learn from our own shadows. And we do it with love and compassion for ourselves. Then we can integrate those shadows within us into our whole human and move forward with kindness, love, and compassion for ourselves, which
Right.
then again is what allows us to relate to other humans with that same level of love, kindness, and compassion. And one of the reasons there's so much fighting and divisiveness in this world is because humans aren't willing to look at their own shadows with love, do that deep inner work, and they just look at other people's shadows and judge it because it's easier. But when we don't look at our own and we don't integrate it into the wholeness of our being, we're not going to be able to have peaceful relationships or harmony with other people because we are rejecting parts of ourselves. And so, of course, we're going to, judge and reject other people as well.
Right. What's your best piece of advice for anybody who wants to start this journey?
Oh, goodness. That's a great question. One thing that I find really, really impactful, really a helpful tool, I've been doing this literally since I was a child, is journaling. So I always keep a journal and I spend time, not daily. I don't put like a schedule on it. I don't do well with too much, protocol. I like to be free. I don't like to impose things on myself like that. But I do it regularly, absolutely regularly, where I will spend some time writing to myself, like writing how I'm feeling, because that can be really, really helpful. If we just let it all swirl around in like our head, or get stuck in our body, then we're just like not aware of what's happening. So writing, and I'm talking, I at some point I did try like typing my journal and I went back to actually handwriting in a journal with a pen because then you're physically moving your hand and it's a somatic act. It's a physical act. So that is very helpful. So I would say start to write
Mhm.
about your feelings, about your feelings. And one thing you can really do that's really, really important is start to write to your child self because all of us have a little child living within us that is feeling maybe forgotten about. How many of us has actually thought about that part of us growing up that, was confused or maybe didn't receive all the love they were hoping for or felt judged or shamed or got teased or, there's parts of us that are still living in the past that if we don't bring that into our present as an adult and start to really love the wounded parts of us that come from our childhood and our inner child, again, we're not going to be able to really integrate as a whole being. So I do a lot of inner child work for myself, and I literally write to little Erin, all the things that I would like her to know, that I care about her, that I love her, that I'm here for her, that I hear her. And then sometimes I let her write back to me, and I haven't tried this yet, but people are like, try it with your non-dominant hand and let yourself write as the child with your non-dominant hand. That's one recommendation I have. I also recommend that you start to move your body. I just wrote an article that's going to come out in a magazine actually about this in February. I'm very excited, talking about how dance has been my lifeline and how movement is what has helped me to heal and move through the grief, the trauma, the loss, all the shocks I've experienced in my life, how dance has been my lifeline. You do not need to be a professional dancer to dance. Okay. You just need to put on some music that you like and start to move without a mirror. I recommend do not do it in front of a mirror. You want to just start to feel your body. And 5 minutes of movement, this music that you love, is such a game changer. It's such a mood shifter. More and more and more research and studies are coming out that dance is the best way to heal depression. It is absolutely the top activity you could do if you feel depressed. So, research and science is finally validating what I have known my whole life, and that is that movement heals. So, that is my second suggestion. And my third suggestion is find some support from a trusted mentor, coach, healer, advisor, someone that you resonate with. Find that support and don't be afraid to actually invest in yourself to get the spiritual and emotional support that you need, because we all need that help. I get that. I invest in working with other people that have changed my life, that have helped me to see new perspectives that I hadn't seen before. When we get stuck in our own looping thoughts and ideas about things, we can't see beyond that. Sometimes we need other people to help us see a new perspective. And I will say the miracles that have occurred in my life have to do with me simply changing my perspective. Really, a miracle is as simple as a change in perspective that shifts everything for you. So I really do recommend finding someone that you resonate with and trust and feel aligned with, and really feel into the energy of that person and ask yourself, is this someone that can help take me farther and that I trust? And then try it. Like, take a chance, take a chance. Because if you don't actually invest in your time, in your effort, in your focus, in your resources, in your money into something, most likely it's not going to shift, right? Because we have these ideas that we want things to change, but then life happens and we just get sucked into the minutia and the day to day, and we get back into our patterns. And our patterns is what is keeping us in the same, like, it's giving us the same thing we've had before. So really, if we want to open up and we want to shift into an expanded perspective, into a sense of internal freedom, we need to do something different. So those are the things that I recommend. Also, of course, human design is an amazing process, amazing system to use. It can be overwhelming to try to figure out on your own, however. So again, getting more expanded, like going more deeply with human design takes either a mentor to help guide you and personalize that for you, or, buying, like getting a deeper dive report. I actually offer on my website deeper dive reports, because you can just get a free human design chart anywhere on the internet, but you will look at that chart and you won't know what the heck it means. So it's not going to do you any good. So
Right.
I do offer on my website a deeper dive, full personalized report based on your human design. And we're talking over 50 pages of information that is just about your chart. These are like, we put these books together every time someone purchases one based on their information. So it's not something that's just already made, right? This is based exactly on you. And that also helps you learn so much more about your design, how you're made to operate, and gives you really practical tips and tricks for how to move through your life with less resistance and more success, right?
Yeah. Oh, those are all really great things and really great tools. So, Erin, I guess tell us, when somebody is ready to start this journey, find their freedom, make space for miracles, how do they find you? How do they reach you?
Well, I would love to connect with you all. I'm like, connection, like I said, is my top value. So I love, love, love to connect with humans, and all humans, by the way. I will say, all genders, all identities. I have worked with so many different humans, and I just love it. And so they can find me on my website. Now I have a couple websites because I also run Steps to Love wedding dances is my other business. We've been kind of talking more about kind of my coaching business today, but I also create custom choreographed first dances for couples who are getting married and teach them through the art of learning to dance together how to get into a deeper bonded connection with each other and become a really harmonious team as they're moving into their wedding day. So that is my other business that I'm super passionate about. I've worked with like 222 couples at this point. I also offer pre-marriage coaching as well, to help them really, again, become a more connected team moving into the wedding day, because that is like such a life-changing event for them, obviously, as they're making this commitment to each other. So that is my website. So if anyone out there is interested, is in the San Francisco Bay Area is where I do my wedding dances. But if anyone is also interested in coaching, in couples coaching, then they can find me at stepstolove.com, and just type in Steps to Love. You'll find me on Google. My coaching practice is at erinparsleycoaching.com. And you can also find me on Instagram. Just type in my name, Erin Parsley. My last name is Parsley, just like the herb, by the way. And then also, I think I'm not sure where you're going to be putting them, but I did share a link with you, with Michelle, actually, to share for our listeners if they would like to have a complimentary intro like session with me where they can start to learn. If they want to learn about their human design, we will do that. If not, I'm going to meet them where they're at with whatever their life challenge is, and they're wanting to go deeper into their life path and find the right direction for what's going to bring them fulfillment, and then also build the confidence that they need to actually realize that vision. I'm offering a complimentary session, and you can book with me through the link that we'll provide, and we'll be here in the show notes. So those are all great ways to connect with me. I love to hear from you. Please reach out. Don't be shy. And yeah, I'm here to support you.
Great. Thank you. I know you and I will be talking after this. I've got a lot of questions, and I feel very passionate about everything that you do, and I understand the value. So
Amazing.
thank you so much for being a guest, and I'm super excited that you were my first guest.
I
For
feel
the
honored. You did an amazing job. So we're just like celebrating you right now, Ashley. And just like woo woo, celebrate, celebrate. What a way to step up into your next level of expression by trusting yourself to have host this and be, the host for this wonderful conversation that we've been able to have today. So I'm just celebrating you right now.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that so much.
Thanks for listening to Adeptus On-Air. If you like this episode, please subscribe and leave a review. The views and opinions by the podcast speakers and guests are solely their own and do not reflect the opinions of Adeptus. This podcast provides general information only and is not intended to constitute advice.